Okay, we're a little early, and that's okay. Weekly Wednesday webinar. This week, keep it simple. We're going to be doing a review, going over past episodes, what we've learned. You know what we're going to do, 5-minute timer, and I see you at the end of it. As always, thank you for your time and your support. I see you at the end of the 5 minutes.
Standing in the rain, cab comes into view. Ask me where am I going to? Running for so long, been gone too many nights, and my heart has paid the price. This ain't heaven, and this ain't the life I bargained for. Oh no, my reason for living isn't here inside this car. You know I gotta get back to you. Cab driver, take me home. Spent too much time away, too much time alone. Cab driver, take me home. Spent too much time away from my baby. Oh yeah. I need familiar streets to show me that you're near. Feeling like a stranger here. Oh, God's a mirror show for miles on my face. Am I going any place? This ain't heaven. This ain't the life I was hoping for. Oh no. Oh no. The reason for living, so right here inside this car. You know I gotta get back to you. Cab driver, take me home. Spent too much time away, too much time alone. Cab driver, take me home. Spent too much time away from your baby. Oh, cab driver, take me home. Too much time, cab driver, take me home. Spent too much time away from my baby. Oh yeah. I need to see the look on your face. To see your face. A kiss from your lips. Oh, I really miss the taste. Nothing waiting for me but a lonely room. Girl, I gotta get back to your baby. Soon. Oh, cab driver, take me home. Spent too much time away, too much time alone. Cab driver, take me home. Spent too much time away from your baby. Oh, cab driver, take me home. I spent too much time, and I gotta get back to you, baby. Take me home. See, it's a lonely world without you, babe.
Okay, we're here. I know we say keep it simple. We're going to, even more so than usual. This one, I wanted to recap, get some constructive criticism, get better, hold myself accountable at the same time. Let's start with a prayer. God, thank you for everything we do have and everything we don't, for the things that we're meant to do and the things that we're stopped from doing, for the highs and lows, for the blessings and what we perceive to be setbacks, and for everything. In your name, amen. Let's begin. I like to start the music off decent, so let me know how I'm doing in my music sense, if I need to incorporate other sounds. So, get constructive criticism. So week one was the 9th of September. That episode, and I'm going through each episode's information, recapping slightly, little content, little entertainment, and then we'll call it. And I'll see everybody next week. Okay. So the first episode we talked about the website. I wanted to give a breakdown of my intention, introduce myself, introduce my representation, my content, and I wanted people to see me. I'm challenging myself to be seen more, to be accountable more, and I stand on it, and I'm accountable with it. And so I showed you the Black Excellence Gallery, the nonprofit, the criminal law organization, the podcast, the homicide hotline, the art, the music, the books, the film, the representation. Excuse me, because I'm learning more and more that the subconscious mind is a little bit more powerful than the conscious mind. Because what do you think about things when you're not thinking? So to some extent, you can control the perceptive mind and the conscious mind, but the subconscious are things that are unseen, things unthought, and things embedded so deep into you that you really don't understand unless you're intentional with it. So the first episode, I wanted to learn camera angles a little more, practice while at the same time be intentional with it and show my mistakes, make myself vulnerable for the next person. In the second episode, on the 16th of November, we talked about coping skills, affirmations. We talked about I'm incredible, I'm amazing. Why? Expound upon that. We talked about cleaning and organizing your space and how it the external is a manifestation of the internal and vice versa. And so when it comes to those kind of things, I'm intentional with it. And so if your area is cluttered and congested, it it ties into the subconscious as well as the conscious about how you feel that day. If it's clean and neat and freshly mopped, that ties in. So I'm not saying either one is progressive or regressive. What I'm saying is things have an intention, things have an effect, and to acknowledge and embrace the reality about it. Oh, here's one. I talked about one of my coping skills is getting dapper. I get dressed up at 2, 3 a.m. sometimes, suit and tie like I'm going to court or like I'm going to a significant event. I'm just doing it to look in the mirror. And so that's just lead me leading by example on one of them. Criminal justice, we differentiated between probable cause and reasonable suspicion. Remember, probable cause is a cause or reason that is probable or makes sense. Reasonable suspicion is a suspicion or intuition that is reasonable. So break it down even more simple. Reasonable suspicion is something that you perceive based on your previous experiences, your upbringing, education level. Everybody doesn't see the same thing when it comes to reasonable suspicion. But at the same time, it makes sense. Probable cause is something that you can articulate, something that you can describe, something that you can expound upon to other people and explain with specifics, details, and testimony, whether that be physical, which is evidence like hair, nails, which is fabrics from clothing. Side note on that, low-card exchange principle states that two things that come in contact with each other, they leave traces of each other. So if I get in my car with this sweater, the sweater's on the car seat and the car seat's on the sweater. Everything exchanges that comes in contact. So that ties into our physical evidence. Testimonial is me saying these things now, talking about these things now, and being intentional with it. Okay. We talk about the film review, Wakanda Forever, and we gonna go something different. Take those off. Yeah, I don't need them necessarily. Might put them back on. We'll just see. Wakanda Forever. I talked about the what I like from films. I like character development. I like flashbacks. I like how people go through experiences and trauma and how they cope with it within that character, and how it ties back into future scenes as well. I like relationships and how they start, how they begin, what causes them to go Ari, or what causes them to build. And so I like foreshadowing. I like messages from the future that are in the present. And so that's my build, my take. I gave a shout out to, I believe his name is M'Baku. He got his powers. He's been waiting on that one. And the question that we asked this week for next week was, "Who am I?" And we addressed that question on the 23rd of November. And who am I? Me leading by example, making myself vulnerable. Who am I? Father, husband, community leader, um, deeper career wise, paralegal, criminal law paralegal, vocational teacher. I make content. Let's go deeper. And so finding that, what do I stand on? What is my purpose? And getting specific with it. Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, that's okay. Just stand on it, embrace the reality, and meet it with open arms. And so this week we talked about the Bill of Rights of 1791, victimology, and responding versus reacting. And so a brief synopsis of, remember, I'm just going through each episode, a brief synopsis. Maybe you're interested in it, you can look it up. Maybe not. At least you got something brief from each one. So the Bill of Rights, we talked about what they represented, the significance of them, and how it ties into laws and the infrastructure. Now, more specifically, I talk about the criminal justice system and how they used that as a form of slavery. They call it involuntary servitude. So by breaking these laws, by violating these rules, they can subjugate you back to prior treatment, which is essentially reduced, free and reduced labor. We talked about victimology. We talk about how, this is holiday season. People don't have the best intents. A lot of exchanges of finances, exchanges of money. And so how are we protecting ourselves? Are we carrying our keys in our hand when it's late at night? Are we, talking to somebody on the phone to ensure we get in the house? That way, if something happens, we have a line of contact who can give our last location to the first responder. We talk about how when it comes to shopping in bulk, maybe spread it out. Maybe go in person and take small minutes of cash, or maybe like a Cash App card, or just protecting your information as much as possible. And so we just being intentional. And we also talked about how crime has three components: a willing participant, which is usually the offender, a lack of a capable guardian, which is somebody to prevent or stop the behavior from happening, and a potential victim, which is the person that gets taken advantage of. Or number three from that day is responding versus reacting, and the power of patience. How to, if someone says something that kind of rubs me a certain way, wait 3 seconds and respond instead of a knee jerk reaction that we might regret later. And so the key is self control and discipline. We talked about breathing, counting to five, and compliments and active listening, and confirming what people are saying. I'm not saying agree with it. I understood that you said this and this because of this. Am I understanding that correctly? I like that you pointed that out. Here's my take on that. Here's my response to this. Instead of, whoa, what? No. Deep breath, count to three, maybe count to five, respond. And so the question that we left the audience with this week is, what's my purpose? And we address that in the next episode. And that will be episode number 4 on the 30th of November. And we talk about career development, power representation, and life organization. And so first thing, we talked about, what is my purpose? What am I able to do effortlessly that benefits other people outside of myself? What skill, what trait, what personality, what am I able to do to, like, for instance, this extracting the information that I come across? I don't want to die without this education. You see the books in the back, and I'm hoping you guys can see them, look it up on your own, do your independent research. I don't want to die without this. Well, at the same time, in order to better those around me, I need to better myself. And so I better myself and then extract. And this is one of the ways I extract. So we'll start with it. Career development. What are your hobbies? What do you love to do? I challenge the youth, other than sports or video games, what do you love to do? Well, I like to draw. Okay, we can do architecture. We can do graphic design. We can do animation. I like to listen to music. Well, okay, we can do mixing and mastering. We can do engineering. We can do editing, software programming. It's being intentional with that and then monetizing it. Do we need to go to a trade school, get a trade? Do we need to go to college and get a degree, or are we able to do it on our own with entrepreneurship? And so it's just being intentional about it, writing it down, and investing in yourself long term. The power representation was number 2, And it's a theory is that I really hold dear to my heart is the black inferiority complex. And that means that the images they show of success, of well-being, of progress and upliftment and enlightenment and love and encouragement, they're to the contrary of your representation. It doesn't add up to what you see when you look in the mirror. And then on the contrary, on the flip side of that same theory, they show things of detriment, of regression, of suffering, of being bereft and deprived. They show that of you. So you see yourself, which is on a consistent basis, most time the violent, um, crime ridden, sports and entertainment. Those are most times the most uplifting images of us that we see on a consistent basis. I'm not talking what's sparing. I'm talking about what's consistent. If you want to see what's consistent, watch the news tonight and look how your niece and nephew, cousin, and your fellow citizen is described. What adjectives are used with what images. That's what ties into it. And so, in I heard a quote, I got told a quote that you can tell people why they're wrong or show why what you're doing is right. I've made my decision. The Black Excellence Gallery and my content, and that's what I'm enlightening and talking to us about and discussing about us with about what is your representation? What are you wearing brand wise? And these aren't popular conversations. People don't want to change. They don't want to embrace the reality. And I'm not saying it's okay or not okay. What I'm saying is the next generation's watching. And so if it is not for you and for us, it's for them and the ones after to give them a stable stomping ground so they see things both sides and they're able to make a well-informed decision and understand the consequences and benefits of that decision. We talk about life organization, how to get started, a blank piece of paper and a pen. Financially, where am I? Emotionally, um, spiritually, where am I? When it comes to my organization and how clean is my car? Let's be intentional with these things. Let's talk about these things and the benefits of where you are and how organized or how does it smell. They even say lavender, it invokes certain thoughts chemically in the brain that makes you more relaxed, that makes you more open and receptive to messages. And so it's just about diving deeper to like the power of marketing and advertising. They hire psychologists to do that because purple and blue might invoke more of a drowsy, more of a relaxed. Boy, yellow red might invoke hunger, might invoke pink, might invoke some type of hunger. So it's just about being intentional with phrases and words and embracing that and understanding the power of them. So that leads us to the December 7th episode, episode number 5. And the question that we asked last week for this week, 3 things I want to accomplish before death. And so this episode, we talked about the Letter to My Children poem reading, the difference. You can find that on the YouTube channel as well. Parenthood and anger management. And so the question that we addressed, the question we talked about is 3 things I want to accomplish before death. So I make myself vulnerable. 3 things I want to accomplish before death. I want to be a great grandfather. That even thinking about that makes me smile. And God willing, I get there. Having the law office, having the community center tied into it in the physical and dental health, the base level standard of care for the community, free of charge, pro bono. That's the intent. Recording studio in there as well. And number 3, I think number 3 was law school. Because in order for me to, right now, I'm a paralegal, criminal law paralegal. I don't have the legislative power of pen that someone who's bar certified is. The level of education is extremely similar. Some of the more court procedures, we can find that online. That's you can attain that. But that power of that pen behind your name is different when it comes to that bar certification, that Juris Doctor next to your name. And that's what I need to get. If I get it, that's great. If I don't, I don't. That's my intent. So we talked about a letter to my children, a poem reading, and it's the biggest thing was representation. Everybody's representing something. Everybody has a brand on of some sort. Everybody's walking a certain way, listening to a certain music when they pull up. They walk they communicate a certain way, their lingo, their language. We're doing something. What type of pants you wearing? Somebody's watching everything we're doing. Are we intentional with that? And if we are intentional, where's it leading to them? To a progression of regression because there's no middle ground. And so with that one, it was asking us questions, holding us accountable, unveiling the reality, and then addressing it from a subconscious level. The second thing we talked about on the December 7th episode, number 5, was parenthood and the power of stability. And I even talked about how some of my partners in college where we would eat, they would eat the same thing every day. They might try one thing once and then never try it again that I would see. And they would most times eat the more readily foods. That's the chicken fingers, that's the fries, that's the burgers. Oddly enough, the things that we ate really a lot in high school. And so we have to think about how that programmed us and what around them built that stability to where that's what they craved. They were comfortable with that. They knew it was just, it had sustenance and it was dependable. And then the foundation we talked about. One of the things I used to do is play a certain sound at bath time every day. Every day at the same around the same time, I play the same song, and it would trigger thoughts in them, and then I would just build from there. That way, subconsciously, that's the power of the subconscious we talked about. It's just being intentional with that. Anger management, that goes back to coping skills too, and embracing our trauma. What did you go through? I'm not saying address it with me or with someone else. I recommend someone else. I'm saying have that conversation out loud with yourself. This is what we went through. Omari, this is what you went through. This is the reality. This is what happened. Let's break that down and put some subconscious coping skills in there. Maybe you need to eat a carrot every day at 3 p.m. Maybe that's your coping skill. Whatever it needs to be in order to get you to a more stable and progressive place, then that's great. Because depending on someone else, if they're not there, then what? So my biggest thing is address it yourself, get stable yourself, and then go seek help, mental help. Go see, maybe go sit down with a family member, maybe with a total stranger. Maybe you go see a licensed therapist. It's up to you and what you need. And so the question for after this one next week is what are my triggers? What triggers me where I get overwhelmed, I start to lose control, and I'm finding that I'm not the most stable and I'm doing more reacting than responding. Okay. And so episode number 6, this is the latest last week's episode, and this is on the 14th of December. We talk about the mentality switch, the website building, and the power of leverage. And so the question that we need to address first is what are my triggers? For me, leading by example, crimes against women and children, dog bowel movement, and bullies. Those are 3 things that get me at a more intense energy than I am now, fast. And so I'm intentional with that. If I see, and this is what gets me in a lot of trouble too, is I'll see a woman and a man having a dispute and it starts to escalate. There's children with them. And so I have to ask myself, one, there's no right or wrong in the situation. Are the children safe and okay? And if they're not, what am I really to do? I intervene. Are you okay? Do you need anything? I jump in myself and defend her honor. If she wants to be in that situation, there's no saving someone. So I think the greatest thing I can do is communicate my intention. If you're gonna do that, what you do behind closed doors is on you. Will you leave or I leave abruptly? I ask, "Are you okay?" And then I have to remove myself because, even somebody I know is in a situation like that, and she keeps going back. And so I stand to defend your honor like I would want somebody to do for my daughter if someone crossed that line. But then you're not defending your own. So now I'm putting myself in a line of fire for someone who really don't even care about themselves. And so I'm really careful with that. I'm really intentional with that. The first thing we talked about this week is the mentality switch. And this is shifting the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why. I'm finding a lot of people focus on the who. For me, I take out the who. I focus on the what. What was done? When, where, why. Okay, that's great too, but what was done? The who should be the last thing. And it really shouldn't change anything. Keyword is shouldn't. If it's done, it's done. If it's not, it's not. Let's start taking that bias out of it. Because they did it, it's okay. If someone else did it, I would. Let's get done with that. And the gradual adjustments. Maybe you listen to 30 minutes less of music of that certain genre. Maybe you watch an hour less a week of this, or maybe you read 20 pages a book every 3 days. It's whatever you need to take that next step to shift that mentality. Website building is the second thing. And I caution people on websites. There's a million websites that are going to overcharge you for something you can do yourself by having initiative, courage, and taking that leap and willing to make mistakes. I've spent hours and hours building website blocks. Now, coding, I'm not talking about coding. I would never claim something that I'm not. Coding is a totally different level. I'm talking about website blocks, like 95% of most website services have. That is essentially as building a PowerPoint. You're building a Microsoft PowerPoint. And so just take a deep breath, find something that's 5, 10 a month, go into it yourself. If you want to pay somebody else, that's great. They're going to hit you over the head. And every little thing that needs to be changed, you have to follow up with them. They have to confirm it. Then you have to issue payment. Then they confirm they got payment. They make the change. You might not like it. They're going to disregard all of that. Make mistakes. Jump into it. Run and jump. I'm not saying jump into the ocean off a boat. I'm not saying jump into the deep end. That 5 to 7 feet, you can get the effect of jumping into that one. You might not be fully submerged, while at the same time you jumped in, and you can practice your skills the way you are ready to jump off the boat. You are ready to jump off that cliff. So it's just about taking a deep breath and understanding your skills, your strengths, and getting it on paper in your mind, pressing that link on the paper, having a separate paper that would show where that link goes, and then from there, just manifesting it digitally. The third thing we talked about is the power of leverage. What can I give in order to get what I want? So we talked about identifying what you want first. Don't worry about what they have. Don't worry about what they want. What do you want? I want one, two, and three. Okay, well, that's what we want. What do we have to give? What is our threshold? What is our budget? What is our quota? What are we able to give without depriving ourselves too much? And if we're willing to, then what do we want to get out of it that makes it worth it? I'm not saying do it, don't. What I'm saying is being intentional. What I'm saying is being better. What I'm saying is being specific and holding yourself accountable to a higher level. That way, when someone holds you accountable, we've been here. Welcome for finally getting on this level, respectively. Making sure it's mutually beneficial. If you get five, I'm getting three. If I'm getting three, you're getting five, and that's I'm okay. I'm okay with you getting five, me getting three, or me getting five, you getting three. Let's make sure it's mutually beneficial. I don't want 20 if you're getting two. That's not why I'm here. 15 and 8 or 8 and 14, okay. But my goal is not to that's not my goal. That's not my intention. And so making sure we're accountable with that, and specific and diligent with that. And what we're oh, and this is the biggest thing for my parents. This is to my parents and educators. When you find out what your children like, what your students like, use that as leverage. My students ask me every day to go to the restroom. I say, okay, what do you have to offer? Let's negotiate. I need some type of key term, which is like setting, protagonist, antagonist, substantiated. I need that on the board, 30 words. Mr. Moore, I'd rather read 10 pages out loud out of a nearby book. Oh, so we're negotiating. That's fine. You read 10 pages, you go to the restroom. If it's not worth it, they'll say, nah, I'm okay. But it makes them commit, it makes them invest, and they get better while getting what they want. Well, I'm getting what I want, which is them to get practice and elevated levels of literacy and reading comprehension. So it's a win. It's a win win for me. And the question we're going to address next week is how will I how will I know if I have succeeded? What's that point to where I look around and say I've reached the mountaintop? I am a success. And so that is all 6 episodes. You guys for joining me. I'm gonna put another 5 minutes on. If anyone has comments, actually, I won't put another 5 minutes on. What I'm gonna do is thank you all. Give you the website omariaa.com. I'm gonna go lay down with my kids, and I thank God for my blessings and for everything I do have and for everything I don't have. omariaa.com on the weekly Wednesday webinar. Thank you.